Okay, it's about 8:07 in the morning. I just wanted to document this. So I got 300 watt inverter running my Dell power brick for my big laptop, and that is coming through a cable. We got a quick shot from the outside while the laptop starts up. We got two deep cycle batteries in parallel. I don't know the actual charge on those. I just bought those this week. Actually, I've had them for a few days already, but I haven't hooked them up to anything yet. I don't have a multimeter in here with me, so sadly. The laptop is starting at, okay, it's at 50% now, okay? So I used it for a while and then hooked up the charger. So this is the first test. So I just wanted to get an idea. So it's 8:07, 8:09 on that clock. So we'll just see how long I can actually get from this. The issue has been, I really can't use this laptop in the truck because it just uses too much power, right? I did one edit session a little while ago where I had the inverter. I've got a pigtail down here. This runs directly to the truck electric. I got a solenoid. If I hit this switch, the solenoid closes, and then I'm connected to basically to the battery. So if the truck is running, I get power. Even if that switch is left on, the solenoid automatically disengages when I turn the key off, so I don't have to worry about running the front battery dead, basically. Snooze, I don't want to do an update right now. Anyway, so I can sit here and idle the truck and run the laptop, but it's like, does it make sense to run a V8 motor to run a laptop? Not really. You know, it just doesn't seem like a good use of time. So let's see if this is going to start. Anyway, so basically I'm just doing some editing in the truck. During the week, I typically will go to the library on my days off, or in the evening or in the morning, depending on my work shift now. Find a chair that's got a plug-in close by. Yesterday, I think I spent 5 hours at the library, and the day before I got another 4 or 5 hours. So getting some editing then that way, but it's more convenient for me, really, to work out of the truck if I can. The idea is, you know, if I decide to, if I want to walk in, because I'm in the Walmart parking lot right now, so if I decide I want to go, actually just starting a clip here. Try again. Okay, so I'm sitting here in the Walmart parking lot today. I've got 2 days off, yesterday and today. Today's Friday. The library doesn't open until 1 p.m. today, and they close at 6 instead of 7, right? Normally they're open by 10 in the morning, I think, something like that. So if I, a lot of times I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, eat my breakfast, and I could be sitting here working on videos. Even if it was a work day, I could work on something for an hour or two and then go to work, depending on when my shift starts, because it starts some days 7:30 in the morning, some days 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that kind of thing. So if I can do more useful work in the truck on my off time, I can take advantage of that downtime. And what I'm really doing is, by not driving home every day, that's a 2-hour drive. So I'm saving 4 hours a day just not driving, plus $35 of gas every time I don't drive home. Okay. So if I can make more use of the time in the truck, that's what I'm looking at. So today the library doesn't even open for at 1 o'clock. So that's 5 hours from now, right? So I don't know how much time I can use those batteries before they drop off on voltage. I don't have a way to recharge them right now here. So my plan is just to run them, and then when the inverter drops offline, then I know they're down to 11 volts or something like that. and then I'll just let them sit for a couple days, and then when I go home I'm going to plug them in with my solar charger and solar charge them. I'm actually probably going to hook up at least 3 solar panels on the back of the camper. I've got room for 3 right now, and that'll give me something. So, you know, if I'm working for 8 hours during the day, it'll be sitting there for 8 hours recharging. I think I can get a couple hours of laptop out of that then. The other plan is to hook up a wire through a charge controller from the alternator to the back set of batteries. And then if I am driving, like for instance, when I do drive home, that's a 2-hour drive. That's free power. Well, not quite free, you know, nothing is free, but if you're driving anyway, why not recharge the battery? So when you get home, you got a full set of batteries. I could run my house off of those for a couple of days. I mean, plus the solar, right? So I'll probably, when I go home for a day off, or, you know, if it's, I don't go home unless I have at least 2 days off. So when I get home, next morning, because I typically get home late at night now, so the next morning I could walk out to the truck, unhook the batteries from the truck, take them over to the battery box, hook them up to the solar, let them recharge for free then, and then the next 2 nights I've got a decent amount of power. So these are about $100 a piece if you have a core to turn in. And what I'm looking at now is on payday, you know, if I have a little bit extra money, I'll go buy another battery. The house batteries are all wiped out now. They're just no good. They don't hold much of a charge anymore. So I'm going through, and first I'm taking all of the junk batteries that I had. I had 2 batteries that weren't any good at all that I had from before, so I used those for these cores. And then I've got 4 more batteries that I can replace over time. So, you know, for right now at home, I don't spend any time at home anymore. I'm in the truck most of the time, so I might buy just 1 battery for the house, so I at least have enough to run lighting, you know. So that's kind of what I'm looking at, is does it make sense to put any money into the house right now? No, not really. So I'm just kind of like, well, I'm just gonna not mess with the house very much, but if I, you know, have a spare $100, I'll buy 1 more battery for the house and then just run everything off of 1 battery, and then when I can, I'll just buy more. So we'll just kind of go like that. But for now, the laptop is charging, and I'm going to get some work done, and I'll just shoot another video when at whatever time the batteries run down. And unfortunately, I don't have a multimeter with me, which, you know, I wish I did. This inverter doesn't have any indicator; it just has power and fault. So it'll start squeaking when the battery gets too low. Then I'll know. The inverter should cut out. Excuse me, my nose is running. The inverter should cut out at a point where you still have enough power to start the engine. So one thing I have looked at, I haven't done it yet, but the idea would be I should still be able to start the engine off of the back battery when the inverter drops off, right? So, and those are marine grade batteries, so they're pretty stout. They should be able to start the engine. You can use them as a starting battery, I'm pretty sure. I've never tested that, I don't think. But what I could do is, what I'm kind of thinking, what if I had a switch, like an A/B/off battery switch? Okay. So what I'm thinking is, when the back batteries are low, disconnect the starting battery completely. Then the alternator will see the low batteries and send all of its power to recharge the low batteries, and they're basically equalized, so I won't be boiling the front battery off because it's not connected. Or start with the front battery, engage the rear batteries, and then disengage the front battery. If you lose power in that sequence, your ECM will drop offline and then the engine dies. So you need to, you know, have 12 volts on the system at all times, or you lose the ECM. But yeah, I'm thinking that might be a good test for when I'm at home. Disconnect the front battery, start the truck off of the back battery, If nothing else, disconnect the back batteries, bring them up next to the front, run jumper cables from the back, basically from the deep cycle batteries directly to the truck. I should be able to start like that, and then the alternator can recharge them. And the alternator is going to put out a lot of power, 100 amps, something like that. I mean, it can charge quickly. So if I idle for 15 or 20 minutes, that might be enough to restart or to recharge those batteries. Short term, that might be a good idea. What I did last time, though, I had a solar charge controller that I hooked up to the same solenoid that I have in here. So when I turned it on, it sent 14.4 through that system. So the charge controller just saw 14.4 coming in. That's a little less than it's used to, because the solar panels can put out 18 to 20 or something like that. But the charge controller was rated at, I think I used a 20 amp charge controller, 20 or 30 amps. Okay. So the charge controller just took 30 amps from the truck, put it into the back battery. I didn't have to worry about the front battery boiling dry when the back battery was charging, because the front battery still got its 14.4 volts like it's supposed to. The alternator and the voltage regulator just said, oh, we've got a 30 amp load, you must have the lights on, or the heater, right? Something big. So it just said, okay, put out more power. But it doesn't put out more voltage, it just puts out more amps, I think. Pretty sure. That seemed to work out pretty well. So when I was driving home and then driving back to work, this was a couple years ago when I was doing that, I had 2 hours of approximately 30 amps going into the rear batteries. That worked out pretty well. The issue was I was trying to run my microwave and coffee maker off of that. It did work, but I wasn't driving enough every day during the week when I was in town to recharge the battery. I would drive to the gym to take a shower, and then I'd drive to Denny's to get something to eat, and then I'd drive to the library, but I didn't drive for enough time for that 30 amp charge controller to recharge the batteries, right? So eventually they'd run dead. But it was working. I didn't have any problems with it. It just wasn't enough time. I didn't have solar panels in that mix at the time. Anyway, it's been running for about 15 minutes. One thing to be watching is I'm running a little bit light on the power, on the wiring right now. It's a 300 watt inverter. Here's the thing, I'm not pulling 300 watts. The kilowatt, I measured this power adapter for the Dell. When the laptop is fully charged, it only pulls 30 watts. Watts, 30 watts. And when it's pulling a charge, it pulls 70 watts. That's how it measured that day, at least. Okay. So I'm not pulling the full 300 watts. Now, that's the thing is, when you wire something, if you're going to do it the right way, if you're pulling, if you have a 300 watt inverter, you should at least wire it for 300 watts. So that'd be roughly 30 amps. Okay. So you can look up a wiring diagram, a wire chart, and you say, okay, because I'm running a 10-foot wire from here back to the battery. Okay. So you'd look at, okay, I need 30 amps and 10 feet. I'm running 10 gauge wire. That's not enough. I think that's good for 15 amps, if I read that right. So I should be running like a 4 gauge wire would be about right for that. Okay, so if I do go back and wire that, I probably will do something like that. I have used battery jumper cables before, just cut the ends off and then put terminal lugs on there. And that's easier to find sometimes than trying to find actual big wire. But anyway, for now it seems like it's working. I'm not pulling the full power, so I'm not too worried about the gauge of the wire. It is 10 gauge wire, so it should be good for a while. Yeah. And for really, I guess the last thing is the Dell laptop I only use for doing video editing. All right. When I'm doing writing or internet or any of the other stuff, I use my Chromebook, and the Chromebook can recharge off of a USB-C connector, which I've got one of those for the truck anyway, for my phone. So I just use my phone charger to recharge the Chromebook, and that works fine. It's not a fast charger, but it still works. So I can sit there and, you know, work off of it. It'll slowly charge when it's turned on, and then when it turns off, you can charge longer. So that's how I run my phone, and my Chromebook is right off of the cigarette lighter, and that works fine. This truck, the cigarette lighters are active when the truck is turned off. I haven't had any problem with that yet. Last thought on that, when I do set up solar, I might run a solar charge controller for the front battery, just to keep that topped off. I've got all those Harbor Freight charge controllers. Why not just throw one on the front system, and then you don't run it dead? Yeah, might as well. Anyway, so far it's working. Life is good. Okay, just a little update here. I'm basically done editing that section. I don't know if this is going to show up. There it goes. So I'm back up to 69% at 11:27. What I've been doing, so that's about almost 3.5 hours. I'd charge it up to about 90-95% and then shut the inverter off, and then let it coast on the laptop's battery. I don't know which is more efficient, but then I'm not doing a constant draw on the battery pack in the back. So I got 3.5 hours, and I'm still going strong. I don't know my voltage on the back, so, you know, kind of like, I don't know how far I can go, but I know I got 3 hours at least. And I also don't know the exact charge of the battery when I started on the back. Okay, but that's, you know, that's pretty usable. I got 3 hours. So it's still another hour and a half before the library closes. So what I'm doing now, the clip I was working on, I'm finished. So I'm moving it onto a thumb drive, and then from there I can upload it from the phone or something and not use this one for that. So you don't have to keep it running longer than necessary. So that's a pretty good solid test. Now I don't know yet how much further I can run. So, and I don't have a way to charge this week. So I'll figure I'll just work on it a little bit in the evening or something and keep track. So it's about 3.5 hours now. So that's pretty usable. Cool.